Charge, ready for the fight. Noble hearts and steadfast pride. Detroit spirit, we wear it white. Feel the drive, hear the crowds embrace. Rock on, Detroit Lions will rise. With a heart full of dreams and the fire in our eyes. From the past to the future, we'll claim our own. In the home of the brave, we'll proudly have grown. In the city, where the roar meets the night, the Lions charge, ready for the fight. Noble hearts and steadfast pride. Detroit spirit, we wear it white. Feel the drive, hear the crowds embrace. Rocked on, Detroit Lions will rise. Rocked on, Detroit Lions will rise. With a heart full of dreams and the fire in our eyes. From the past to the future, we'll claim our own. In the home of the brave, we'll proudly have grown. With every game, we rise and unite. Feeling the passion igniting the light. Through highs and lows, we'll stand as one. Our legacy, a tale that's just begun. Together we roar, together we roar. Detroit Lions will rise. With a heart full of dreams and the fire in our eyes. From the past to the future, we'll claim our own. In the home of the brave, we'll proudly have grown. So let's lift our voices, let's turn it up loud. For the love of the Lions, we'll always be proud.
All right. We are in. It is Off the Cuff, Rock Down Detroit Lions tonight. It's been a minute, but we're back, and we're doing a game preview. It's Week 11. I'm joined tonight by Justin Treese, one of the head honchos here for the Talkin' Football podcast, and hopefully we'll see a lot more of this coming here pretty soon. But, Justin, I appreciate you joining me tonight. You go by Treese. I'll call you Treese. What's happening tonight?
Thanks for having me, Will. Really appreciate it. Excited for this. We'll dive into all the things Jags, Lions here shortly. But, yeah, I'm excited. Should be a good time.
I am too. You know, we didn't get a chance. It's my fault. I didn't check audio before we got started. Are you on Mac or PC tonight?
I'm on Mac.
You're on Mac, so I don't know how those things work, but if you could turn it up just a few scotches, and then if anybody in the chat could let us know if we're pretty good or even on audio, that would be helpful. So, Treese, how long have you been a Jaguars fan, if you will, and when do you think you kind of cross that threshold of, this quasi-expert, right, of, you're into the bets or the props or the Jaguars knowledge? I guess explain to us a little bit about, what you are as a Jaguars fan and how important this team has been to you.
Yeah, for sure. Hopefully that changed. I did change my settings a little bit, so hopefully that's better for everyone. So I became a Jags fan actually the year that they became a team. So I live in Utah, so we obviously do not have a team. So everybody here is either Cowboys, 49ers, or Broncos fan. That is the entire state, basically. And I just wanted to be different. At that time, I was age about 6 or 7. So I wanted to choose a new team. And I'm left-handed, and at age 6, it makes sense that your quarterback's left-handed. And Mark Brunell was the quarterback. Did I know that it was going to cause me so much pain down the rest of my life at the moment? I didn't, but here I am. So that's how I became a Jags fan, and all that. I'm pretty proud, but not proud to say I've not missed a Jaguars game in 18 years.
Wow.
Includes being on a honeymoon and vacations and all of that. So I always find places to be able to watch the game. So I feel like I have the knowledge of the organization and the team the best as I possibly can.
You mean to tell me you did not hide from your wife on the honeymoon for that 2.5 hours, to watch the game? You actually told her?
We were in Mexico, so I just found a bar and I was like, here's some tacos and beer. So
Oh, there you go.
That's what we did. So.
That's great. You know, we have some crossover with Jags. So Mark Brunell, since you mentioned him, now he's the golf whisperer, if you will. Give us your sense on your 2 cents on Mark Brunell, and how do you feel like this? I know it's an off-topic question, but how do you feel like his being in Detroit has really helped Jared Goff?
I mean, it clearly has. Like, look what he has done these last year and a half specifically. Like, it's been night and day difference for Goff. And you want to say that a lot of that is also your offensive coordinator and Ben Johnson, but like, obviously, yeah, he's the quarterback coach, and he knows the ins and outs of the NFL. He's obviously played for a very long time and had a very successful career. I think preparation is one of the biggest things for your quarterback, and you can tell that Jared Goff has that. And they found what I love about their scheme just in general is they have found ways to be like, what is his strengths? It is, hey, let's get the ball out quick here. And then the play action fake. And he has a great deep ball and he threw it. I was a big Jared Goff guy. I come from the Pac-12. So I saw Jared Goff multiple times live. Before he was traded, I put money on him, gambling, thinking that he was going to win MVP. That obviously blew up in my face, and he did not. But I've been a Jared Goff guy for a long time, so I'm actually very excited to see like him transition to this new team and really like extend his career.
Yeah, it's been incredible to watch the transformation of Jared Goff from this, bridge quarterback to now one of the best in the league, at least statistically. Now, he kind of crapped the bed this last weekend, but I don't think all of that was his fault. Before we get off and running too far, I wanted to bring up the injury report. I didn't have a chance to do any videos today, so I at least wanted to highlight this real quick. Lions and Jags, Week 11 injury report as of today, Thursday. We had a couple of things pop up that I don't think that we were expecting. Number one, Carlton Davis right now is listed with a new injury, limited at practice today for the Detroit Lions. Safety Ifeatu Melifonwu, ankle and finger, has days remaining in evaluation window, is 12, has another new injury. And according to this article, Davis was not previously listed on this week's injury report. So this addition on Thursday could mean one of two things. That the first possibility is that he was injured at Thursday's practice and could be facing a similar or situation similar to Taylor Decker last week, where he only has a few days to recover from this injury. The other possibility is that Davis had a pre-existing hand injury, possibly from the last game. Remember that he also missed a few snaps due to the injury and was able to return, and the Lions are just taking things a little bit slower with him. Either way, we won't know anything further until tomorrow. Now, Melifonwu has a finger injury added to his status. Now, this is new, likely indicating he suffered this injury while attempting to return from the ankle injury. I'm not so worried personally as a Lions fan right now. I'm not worried about Ifeatu Melifonwu. The Lions are playing fine in the back end. It would be nice to have that security blanket and that depth available, but I don't think it's going to be needed for this weekend. Full practice for the Lions. Taylor Decker, Malcolm Rodriguez, both upgraded. Broderick Martin and Emmanuel Mosley. Broderick has 5 days left on his window. Mosley has 12. And they are full participants right now. Jaguars, the big ones for you, Trevor Lawrence, left shoulder, no practice. And then Tank Bigsby. Was he listed yesterday? I don't remember if he was listed yesterday.
He was, yep. He has not practiced either day.
Okay, so no big surprise for you. Who are you worried about right now that's popping up on your injury report? So limited, you have Ernest Johnson, Brian Thomas, Gabe Davis, Brandon Scherf, that's a big one. Ezra Cleveland, of course, Brian is too, but Blake Hance, Mason Smith, Josh Hines-Allen with a shoulder, and Tyson Campbell with a shoulder, and Daniel Toms. Anything concerning for you right now? You think anyone's going to be held out this weekend?
I think, obviously, Lawrence has already been ruled out. It's looking like Tank Bigsby is probably not going to play either, so it's probably going to be the Etienne and Johnson show for the backfield there. Everybody else this is kind of par for the course of what it's been over the last several weeks. Like Brandon Sheriff misses Wednesday, Thursday practices all the time. Mason Smith, they have him as an ankle injury. He's been inactive the last 2 weeks anyways. I think it's more of a healthy scratch that they're just not admitting. Which is disappointing off of a second round pick, but the Jags have had a terrible time with second round picks in the Trent Baalke era.
As did the Lions. It's funny you say that. So when did Baalke become the GM? Do you remember?
This is his 5th year.
Okay, so just a year before Brad Holmes.
Yeah.
Yeah, so here's I know again this is another off-topic question or an off-topic statement, but my whole 2 cents is around that whole COVID area, right? There was a lot of players that did not get an opportunity to play. Number one. Number two, they didn't get a lot of opportunity to practice, and everything was done over Zoom.
Yep.
So it seems like there was a rash of second, third, even some first round picks that just didn't pan out the way that everyone thought that they would, and they required more time. And the only reason why I'm bringing this up is because Josh Paschal is a guy, and Levi Onwuzurike, another guy that the Lions have been waiting this whole entire time to finally do something. And these second round picks or third round picks that the Lions have been waiting for are finally showing up. Have you been surprised to watch from afar, watch what the Lions are doing defensively? After Aiden went down, did you really expect that the Lions would be playing this well defensively?
No, I actually expected a dramatic drop off. And I think I even told our friend Riley I was just like, man, you need to start being worried. Like, this is a concern that you guys have this window right now, and now you have to be legit worried that you don't have your star pass rusher. But I feel like your entire defensive line has really stepped up and been able to, as a group, be able to kind of cause havoc. Like, look what they did on Sunday night with Stroud. They did a fantastic job. Brian Branch is obviously everywhere. I was pounding the table for the Jags to take Brian Branch in the first round during that, and so I'm very good friends with Riley, who's on our podcast as well, and so I was very happy for him to get for you guys to get him. But man, he's causing havoc there. Charleston Davis, I know you mentioned that he's now questionable to play with the hand injury, but like, he's been a huge pickup for you guys, and I feel like his vet as a vet, he's really like helped calm everybody down over the last couple weeks for you guys.
Yeah, he certainly has. He's been really instrumental in that back end. Not only from a knowledge standpoint, really helping, the young guys kind of get over this curve. I think that Terrion Arnold is really latched on and learning quite a bit in the aggressive style and nature that Carlton Davis has. It's really showing up in Terrion Arnold, but I think that it always lived within Terrion Arnold. He's just been an aggressive style of a DB. But let me fire up with offense here. Question number one was about Trevor Lawrence tonight. Now, this injury is a major blow to a team that was headed towards the playoffs, right? Anytime you lose a star quarterback, or your starting quarterback, you're going to have some problems. The Jags, unfortunately, are 2-8. They're not really sniffing playoffs. They kind of have to finish the year on a run of 100% win rate to have a chance. So how does this absence really impact the team beyond the quarterback position right now? Are there any rumblings that maybe Lawrence's contract and the production this far has been a large disappointment? And what are your feelings? What are you hearing? What do you think?
Yeah. So do I think that the contract is bad? I do not. I am actually a firm believer in Trevor. I think we saw that in the end of 2022, the last 6 or 7 games there, plus the first half of last year when, let's not forget, they were 8-2 playing on Monday night against the Bengals. A win gets them the number one, or puts them in the number 1 seed. They obviously lost that game, but from that point, so the end of 2022 to halfway through 2023, which ends up being about a 16 to 17 game window, Trevor Lawrence was top 5 in every statistical category for quarterbacks. He was everything that everybody thought he was going to be. Obviously, it's been a letdown since then, but like, just to not to make an excuse, but like, you go from an MCL sprain, and then you have a high ankle sprain, then you have an AC joint on your throwing arm, and a concussion. All 4 of those injuries in the final 8 weeks of the season. No quarterback can overcome that. So last year's a pass. Obviously, this year's where he got the contract and he's playing through it. He's made some bad throws, but he still is pretty good on the turnover differential. He has made some amazing plays, made some amazing comebacks. We have 5 losses by 1 score, and all of them we had a chance, and the defense ends up allowing a touchdown late. I think it was after like week 6. We had been leading 4 of those games and had a chance with less than 30 seconds left, right? And like, it's just the bounce of a ball, right, is the only difference. I think things would be very different in the narrative around Trevor Lawrence if those things did fall in his favor. Obviously, when you're 2-8, though, like that's going to come up, and you're going to blame the quarterback, right? Like you're just going to, and rightfully so in some cases.
I mean, do you think that this is a team that is kind of on the brink? I mean, I don't know enough about the Jaguars. So you have had the same GM for 5 years. Doug Peterson was brought in last season or the season before?
This is his third season.
It's his third season. So you've got a GM that was already there. You've got a coach that is now in his third season. Do you feel like this team is on the brink of doing some things, maybe another draft or two? Like, I mean, because you were talking, just missing some games here by just a few points, one score games or whatever it is. Do you feel like they're closer to doing something or further away at this point?
I think they're close, but here's my take is I think after this week, I think on Monday morning, we all wake up to our head coach getting fired.
Really?
I think Doug Peterson is gone Monday morning. I think they are purposely waiting for the bye week because we have a bye week next week. Because when they let go of Doug Peterson, they are going to let go of Press Taylor as well, who's the offensive coordinator, who is tied directly with Doug Peterson. A lot of people don't understand this. Doug got fired from the Eagles because of Press Taylor. So they basically gave him an ultimatum of you let Press Taylor go because the team does not believe that he has the capabilities of writing up schemes that can win in the NFL. And he said, I'm not going to do that. And so that is why they let him go. He brought him here. When Doug came here, he said, I'm calling plays. That's what I want to do. After one season, the season after they make the playoffs, he hands over the reins to Press Taylor, and the offense has not been as good since. Also, we lost Jim Bob Cooter, who you obviously are very familiar with as a Lions fan. But want to know what's funny is I actually like Jim Bob Cooter. I think he has some creativity to him.
I just can't get over the name. I just can't.
100%, right? Just can't get past it. So, anyways, to answer your question, I think we're close, and a lot of it I do think is coaching and scheme. And I think that again, Monday, I would not be shocked. This is not me saying I know anything. This is me just trying to read between the lines of I believe that that's going to happen. So then they have this new head coach has essentially 2 weeks to plan for it, and then there's no way Balky's back. Like, especially if we end up with the number 1 overall pick again, which we're right now, if the season ended today, that would be Balky's third number 1 overall pick in his regime.
And he hasn't been able to get anything done with it yet.
And yeah, exactly. So that's my take on it. Is I think that the Lions have a very good chance, and Mac Jones is not a good quarterback. I'll keep it PG here, and he's just not a good quarterback. And I think that you guys run away with this.
Well, that was going to be my next thing to ask you. I mean, we might as well skip all the way to the end of the show.
Yeah.
So you're thinking that the Lions are going to sweep the floor? I'm just putting words in your mouth. Do you think the Lions are going to sweep the floor with the Jaguars, and then you're going to have the entire coaching staff is pretty much going to be fired head coach on Monday?
Correct.
Yeah.
I fully believe the Lions win by 21 to 28 points.
Wow, that's huge. That's huge.
It is huge.
Well, let's not spoil the ending. So the Jaguars offense seemed to really sputter with Mac Jones at the helm last week.
Yes.
Now, you already said he's a bad quarterback. Now, you clearly didn't see anything in that performance that gave you any hope. Or is there anything that really needs to change? I mean, do you think this is an opportunity for Mac Jones to kind of have the rest of the season to see if there's anything left in his tank so that the ownership can fully evaluate, all right, if we are going to get the number 1 pick, are we going quarterback? Are we going to invest in offensive line to help out Trevor Lawrence? What are we going to do? So I guess where are your thoughts on Mac Jones and the offense going forward? How does the Jaguars offensive game plan really change with Jones versus Trevor Lawrence under center, or does it really not, change a whole lot at this point?
Yeah, I think it changes dramatically. I think Trevor pushes the ball down the field and really tries to get his wide receivers into the game, and that's exactly what Mac Jones doesn't do. If you go back and look, he was targeting tight end 2, tight end 3 more than he was targeting any wide receiver. So Parker Washington, slot receiver, 0 targets. Gabe Davis, I think, ended up with 3, and only one of them in the first half. Brian Thomas Jr., who I think is an elite talent and one of the top wide receivers already in the NFL. He did not have a target until the fourth quarter.
Wow. You know what I think that's the fault of, and I've seen this before out of other backup quarterbacks is in when they're consistently getting reps with, second team.
Correct. Yep.
They feel comfortable with those guys, and it feels like they just pepper them and pepper them and pepper them because they forgot I've got other players on this team, and then it's too late. I would respectfully say I hope that Mac Jones realizes this last week, I do have these guys, and he probably will target them a little bit more early and often. I'm sure he got talked to about it, but I think that gets really what it is, because we've seen it, like with Hendon Hooker, when he comes in, he's not even looking at anybody else but, the second tier guys. Oftentimes, not the number ones aren't even in there anyway, but the guys they practice with, it seems like those are the guys they target.
That's kind of why I thought he would target Parker Washington more, because Parker Washington's been 2 all season until Christian Kirk went down a couple of weeks ago. So I thought Parker Washington would be it. And being in the slot, that's what backup quarterbacks do, right? They're looking inside out, not outside in. And so they're really looking for those tight ends and that slot receiver and just nothing. But I will say the defense that has been very bad all year is finally getting healthy. And they have kind of played well the last couple of weeks, especially last week. Obviously, played your guys' rival in the Vikings. Did not allow a touchdown. Only allowed 12 points, 4 field goals. You have Devon Hamilton, our nose tackle, that's really healthy now. They finally decided to start moving Eric Armstead inside. At the start of the year, they were playing him outside with Trayvon Walker and Josh Hines-Allen. They moved him inside. That really bulks up that defensive line. And then you have Foye Oluokun that missed 4 games with a Liz Frank injury. He's back, and he's a tackling machine. And then you got Tyson Campbell back a couple weeks ago, and he really did a fantastic job on Justin Jefferson. And it really helps when you're a man-to-man defense, which is what Ryan likes to run. Or Ryan Nelson, I should say. And so when you have that, you need that elite corner that can stick with that number 1 wide receiver. And now that he's back, it does help out quite a bit.
Be interesting to see, man. You definitely have some ballers on that defensive side of the ball. Sticking with a little bit more offense here. So you mentioned Brian Thomas and Gabe Davis. They've definitely shown flashes. And I would agree with you that Brian Thomas, to me, is going to be one of the most exciting receivers to watch. I thought it was going to be Rome Odunze. I liked what Rome Odunze, how he was looking coming out of college. And then, you guys ended up with Brian Thomas. I'm like, man, you've got a gunslinger and Brian Thomas together. Like, this is going to be fun to watch these guys work. So what are your expectations, for them against the Lions secondary, which has been playing pretty well? We've got 2 of the best, if not the number 1, number 2 safeties in the league that have been protecting the deep ball, except when we're playing from a league. But Carlton Davis playing at a high level. Terrion Arnold getting better week by week with keeping his hands off people. But we can also be very vulnerable at times with penalties, especially with Terrion Arnold as a young rookie. And largely, been playing as one of the better units this season. So what are your expectations for Gabe and Brian Thomas with Mac Jones? Do you see this offense really getting anything together, early or throughout the game?
Yeah, I think Brian Thomas is going to make some plays against your guys' defense. I'm not saying that he's going to burn you guys, but he's a very good route runner, actually way better than I expected coming out. And I think that you kind of mentioned, gets a little handsy in Arnold. I could see that being an issue here. I could see them making some plays, some double moves, some comebacks, getting them to call some penalties there. And then I actually don't see Gabe Davis being much of a threat here, but I do see Evan Ingram being a threat against this defense. I think Evan Ingram, if they are able to move him around enough, and watching an Evan Ingram versus Brian Branch, one-on-one, will be just fascinating to watch. I think both of them are very aggressive and kind of freak athletes, right? I could see them kind of going at it a little bit. It's going to be interesting to see if Tank Bigsby does miss, how they get ETN more involved. This year, he's not been the best runner, but catching the ball, he's been fine. He has missed a couple that have bounced up and been turnovers by interception, but I think that they are going to try to probably get ETN involved in the passing game a bit.
Yeah, I would agree with you there that, the Lions have been susceptible to tight ends throughout this season. And, does Ingram really have the potential for a big game against the Lions? I think there's potential for it, right? It depends on how much Brian Thomas can separate, and pull the defense away from Evan Ingram, or if, Gabe Davis is inserted. But I think it really depends upon their run game. And the Lions have been one of the best teams against the run this season. To your point, Etienne, how do you say his last name? I always pronounce it wrong. Etienne. So E.T. Phone home, buddy. So Etienne has been relatively quiet, this season, especially lately. And would you say that that's a product of the offensive line, play calling, or something else right now? What do you think's going on here?
I would say one injury. He missed 2 games with a hamstring injury, and the game before that, he was already limping. So I think part of it's in hamstring because he is a speed runner. So I'd say that, but the offensive line is also not doing a ton of favors for him either. But I actually don't want to talk negatively about the offensive line because Tank Bigsby's been able to run with the same offensive line and the same play calling, right? So I want to say it's more injury, and maybe his vision's just not as good as it was earlier on in his career. It felt like he was seeing things more, and now it kind of almost feels like Etienne's just see gap, run, and if it's not there, he's hoping that it opens up. Even if it doesn't, he's just running into the back of offensive linemen. So I was not a Tank Bigsby guy, but I have slowly over the year kind of turned much more into a Tank Bigsby guy than an Etienne guy.
So Tank was really high on my list. Now he came out of the draft. Was it last year?
Yeah, so he was a rookie last year.
Yeah, it was last year. So when he was coming out with Gibbs, he was really high on my list for the Lions, that if they didn't have a shot at Jahmyr Gibbs, I mean, he's the one guy I called for him at the pick that they took him. Believe it or not, there's record of it. I promise you.
That's awesome.
Tank was on my list, as a later second or third round guy, where a lot of analysts felt that you take a running back, and I personally wanted Gibbs early. But he was on my list. I loved what Tank was putting down, man. He's a vicious runner, and you get him on the outside, and he can burn you apart. Let's flip it over to defense a little bit, unless you have anything else you want to add to your offense. Any questions you have about Lions offense? Take it away for a moment, and then we'll move on to defense.
Yeah, and sorry, maybe I missed it. So what's the status on Laporta?
So Laporta right now has a shoulder injury. He is expected more than likely to be day-to-day, but I don't think that they're going to play him this weekend. I think that they're going to sit him.
Yeah, it's probably the safe thing to do. I will say the Jags can get eaten up. Actually, the Jags get eaten up by slot receivers. That's their number one thing right now. So St. Brown could be having a huge day, but also tight end. So that's why I was more curious on that.
Yeah, I mean, I think the Lions definitely have a plethora of opportunity to score this weekend from multiple areas of this offense. There's not many teams in the NFL that are blessed with this many different weapons. I mean, Amon-Ra St. Brown is a slot merchant that can play anywhere on the field, honestly. The bright spots from Patrick. I mean, the moments that he's been needed, he's been available, and he's made big plays. And then you've got Sam Laporta, who's probably going to be down this weekend, but I mean, he's somebody that's had kind of a slower season this season. He makes the big plays. He caught a couple of big catches last week against the Texans that were critical, a couple of big touchdowns, or one big touchdown, and then another deep shot. So yeah, it hurts not having him in the game. His blocking ability, the way that he sees the field, just the way that he plays the game, he is critical to this offense. But then you have a guy like Brock Wright, who's like this other unsung hero for us that just seems to be in the right spot at the right time when we need a play. And then you have 2 bruising backs in Sonic and Knuckles, a David Montgomery and Jahmyr Gibbs, that not only do they both have great hands, they complement each other very well. Whether both of them can run through the tackles, both of them can run outside zone. I prefer to see Gibbs in the outside zone. And I guess that was going to be my question to you with your defensive line, I guess, really up front. Where do you see the Lions' offensive run game having any success this weekend against the Jaguars' defensive front?
I would say finding ways to get to the edge. I don't see a lot in between the tackles, just because. And here's another thing that I actually am very upset about with Hutchinson being out. I really wanted to see that Hutchinson Trayvon Walker battle here, right?
Yeah.
Obviously they don't ever face off each other, but pick 1 versus pick 2. A lot of talk about why did the Jags take Trayvon, but Trayvon has become a stud. Third or fourth in the league in sacks this year. Obviously, Hutchinson was leading the league in sacks when he got hurt, given a lot of that was off of his 5-sack performance. But I'm upset of seeing that. But back to your question, like Hines, Allen, and Walker are very good at not only rushing the passer but stopping the run. And then, like I mentioned, Armstead in the middle now with Hamilton, who's just this big body dude. I just don't see a ton happening like in between the tackles, but you get outside of either of those two, like see you later. Like I just don't see our safeties have been. I'm pretty sure our safeties lead the league in missed tackles. So you get out there and you get onto it's running back versus safety and corner. I see no way of us stopping Gibbs specifically. So I think you guys will eat us alive on just getting outside on either short passes or runs.
Interesting. The Lions really haven't used a whole lot of the screen game as much as I've really expected this season. This could be an opportunity. How do you feel that your team has been, against the screen game, at least the intermediate stuff over the middle?
Yeah, over the middle, we've been picked apart a lot because Devin Lloyd has not been playing very well. Given Foyer's back, so that's been helping. Screen game, actually. Allen and Walker are pretty good at reading screens, so they know when to hold up and drop back down. So I wouldn't say like any sort of like running back screens or slip screens would be like huge for you guys, but give a tight end screen, wide receiver screen, or something, just short crossing that feels almost like a screen. I could see you guys kind of dicing us up a little bit.
So in the last few weeks, the Jacksonville Jaguars defense was given a D grade for the midseason overall grade. They had an F grade against the Packers, and then they bounced back against the Vikings with an A minus. Yeah. What happened? Like what was the change with this defense? I mean, I guess some of the things that that we were noticing is the Jaguars defense allows, number one, the most passing yards per game in the league, or at least they were at one point. They allowed the second most points and yards, in the league. And PFF ranked, not that PFF really matters, ranked the Jaguars defensive line 26th entering the 24 season. But when you look at that defensive line and you look at the names that you have, how is that possible? So I guess back to my question, what changed from those 2 weeks?
We ran way more too high safeties last week against, specifically against Justin Jefferson, right? It was, hey, let's have Tyson Campbell, who's arguably a top probably 10 cornerback in the league. Let's have him shadow him for anything short, knowing if he gets beat on a double move, we have a safety over the top. So
smart.
And that was almost I think that was basically the first time they'd ever done this. They did it a little bit against the Texans week 4, but besides that, they haven't done it much. They did do just a classic cover 3 in some games when they were really banged up. But I would say the biggest difference from Green Bay to Minnesota 100% was the 2 high safeties and switching that up a little bit. And then again, having Foyer back is huge. Like I can't underestimate that enough. The man has been first or second in tackles in the NFL 4 out of the last 5 years. So he's a tackling machine.
So they went to, was it a deeper zone? Was it a medium zone? What were they doing zone wise? I can't say that I've really watched a whole lot of Jaguars tape, but in a 2 high safety look, which is generally a zone defense, I assume that they were in a cover 2 mostly. Yeah. So
they ran cover 2 mainly. So having the safety is about 15, 20 yards deep, having them drop back, let the cornerbacks drop back to, I'd say about 10 yards. Those cornerbacks drop back. You have the middle linebackers that sitting at about that 7 to 10 yard route.
It'll be interesting to see if they do that. I've made this statement the last couple of morning shows where, with the Lions offense, it's like if you want to come up in the box against us, well, that's fine. We're either going to do some delay handoffs, some misdirection, and we'll figure out a way to beat you with the run. Or if you're going to blitz at us, same thing. We'll beat your blitz. When you go to back up, well, that's cool, Tool. That's just when our slot merchant comes alive and we start to dig you over the middle. And then you want to back up against us. Well, that's fine. We'll dink and dunk over, and then the minute you come back up, we're just going to go over top. So it's like there's a lot of different things that teams have tried to do. it seems like not one team yet has really been able to figure out how to totally stop the Lions. The Texans did a great job in the first half of this last game. And I think that, the more that I've rewatched this game, and I think someone just mentioned it earlier in the chat, and I said it during the game, the Texans were going to burn themselves out. They were playing so fierce, so fast, with so much energy and flying all over the field that they were just going to burn out. And I think that that's what we witnessed. And there again, come the second half, they just couldn't figure out how to stop that next gear of this Lions offense. And I think that kind of rolls into a question here. And we kind of talked about this. What are the Jags doing well? And, how can they contain a high-powered Lions offense? I think you kind of mentioned some of that. But Jared Goff, now he's really been taking care of the football for the entire season. He only threw 4 interceptions through week 9. Last week, he had this anomaly of a game. 5 interceptions versus the Texans was a complete mess. Nobody expected to see this happen. Nobody expected, the Lions. I mean, I still did, but not a lot of people expected the Lions to come back. He has also been extremely stellar most of the season, smashing records, setting records with completion rates, completion percentages, perfect games, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. You've probably seen all the stats. How does the Jaguars secondary approach Jared Goff? Do they play aggressively, hoping for turnovers, or do they focus on limiting the bigger plays and just trying to keep everything in front of them, going up, against such a, high-powered team like the Lions have been the last, 28 games or so?
Yeah, I think they absolutely let the safeties drop back. Do not let Jamison Williams beat you deep. Give up some middle tier plays, get into the red zone and try to stop them. That's basically what they did against Minnesota as well, given they were able to cause turnovers. So the Jags only had, I think, 2 interceptions all season until last week. Ended up with 3 or 4 against Darnold, which it actually was 5, but a couple got called back. So I think that's how they're going to handle this game plan as well. If they go back to more man-to-man or zone, that's going to be interesting to see what they do, considering Nielsen is a man-to-man guy, but he has switched it up a few times this year, and I think it has helped for the better of the defense. But it'll be interesting to see, but I fully expect this to be another one of those Goff could have 350 yards.
Wow.
The question is 400 is an exaggeration, but I could see like 300 to 350 yards. But the question is, are you getting the touchdowns, right? I think that are they able to hold people to field goals and see what happens? Given I don't think that the Jags offense is going to put up more than 10 points against this defense. So, we'll see how that plays out, but I think that's how they're going to probably attack this high-powered Lions offense.
So you think Goff is going to have a total bounce back of a week?
Oh yeah,
yeah, 350 yards. That's a ton. That's a ton of yards.
It is a ton of yards, and it's hard because I've also thought that in a few games with them, and then all of a sudden he only throws for 75 and he has 3 touchdowns because your guys' defense and special teams has so many turnovers and touchdowns, right? Like we legit saw that a few weeks ago. So I just think that the way this offense is ran is just, it's impossible to stop. It feels like it really feels good. It feels like when Kyle Shanahan is in his bag and you're just like, there's nothing we can do. Like, this dude is picking us apart. He's always one step ahead of us. It's very much what it feels like with Ben Johnson right now.
That's Ben Johnson. He's just got to stay in his bag. That's the one thing that I've really enjoyed about Ben. And at the same time, it's kind of been a mystery at times as well. When Ben is really mixing it up and dialing up different plays, and he's not sticking to one certain scheme, he's moving all over the place. He does well. You'll notice it's, they go to David Montgomery, at least they didn't this last game though. They put David Montgomery in to start the game, and then in the next possession, there were Jahmyr Gibbs. And they're flip-flopping every other possession to keep these guys' legs fresh. And it's very smart for them to be doing it that way. But then we get these times where he'll call, 3 pass plays, and you're backed up against the 3-yard line. And this was against the Packers. And it's like, what are you doing? You got to get that ball out of that zone, but then you can start passing it. It's a monsoon. It's slippery. You're backed up in your own end zone. It's the tail end of the game. There's still an opportunity to lose this game. some of that stuff just blows me away. And I don't know why Ben does some of the things he does, because if he really just kept the gas pressed, there is nobody that is going to be able to hang with this team if he calls the plays that have been working. And, I think every offensive coordinator does that. I really do. I think that they get overly confident with certain things, and it just doesn't work in their favor. But you're spot on, man. Ben is, God, he's fun, man. The magic bag that he holds between his hands, you never know what he's going to call, Yeah,
exactly. The Lions are like must-watch TV every Sunday just because of that. So
they are. They're definitely a fun. It's fun being a Lions fan, and to echo the sentiment earlier, when you said that you've basically been beating yourself up ever since you became a Jaguars fan, right? Trust me, been there for a long time. Sure. And it's exciting when it finally flips, because you don't expect it. We didn't expect it, and it flipped. And it's been incredible journey so far. I don't know if the Lions would have ever done this without Dan Campbell and Brad Holmes. Like it takes the right pair.
Yeah. It takes the right pair. Yep. At the top of an organization down. Yeah, exactly.
Absolutely. Let's get into some other questions here about the defense. As soon as I can get them pulled up here again. Where did I put it? So the Lions, like I said earlier, have 5 legit weapons, right? They really complement each other in so many ways. You've got Amon-Ra St. Brown, arguably the Lions' most consistent factor in every game. You've got J-Mo, the home run hitter, really can hit from anywhere on the field. Gibbs, bust one at any moment. Montgomery, he's a bruiser that has breakaway opportunity. Laporta, who we talked about, is probably going to be out, but if he's in, again, he's another guy that he's able to put the blocks in for these guys in the run game and really help free these guys up, to hit the edge in that outside zone. How do the Jaguars limit this? And I know we kind of touched on it a little bit, but if they were to do one thing and one thing well, who do they got to take away this weekend?
I think you take away the thing you have to do is you have to take away the run game and then just see what happens. Obviously, that is not taken away from J-Mo, St. Brown, any weapon, but it very much feels like if the run game's gone and it takes away from the play action fake, then what happens with Goff? I'm a Goff believer, but I also believe I actually think this with Trevor Lawrence too. I think those two are two of the best quarterbacks off of play action. Like it very much feels like they thrive off of that. And if the defense knows the run's not coming because you've been shutting it down all game, does that take away some of the play calling? Does that take away some of the open windows? So I would say, like, if you had to try to do something, it's, that's a very old school mentality of like establish the run, stop the run type stuff. But I actually do believe that that's what the Jags defense would have to do to just have a shot. Maybe they get some confidence after picking off Darnold a few times last week that maybe they start jumping some routes and they're able to see things more clearly. But again, I hate to be like the Debbie Downer fan that's on the stream, but like I just don't see how we're able to stop this offense at all in general. But I think that would be the key for any team facing the Lions. Like that's why I'm so ecstatic about like a possibility of the Chiefs versus the Lions. And I know you'll have Austin from Talking Football on later to talk about this more, but like that defense versus this offense is something that like I would pay $200 to watch. Like it's just fantastic.
Yeah, you won't pay $200 at Ford Field, but you can't even get a seat in the house right now for under $4.
That's wild.
Actually, that's a lie. I think that there was some standing room only for about $300.
There you go.
It's crazy. It's it's crazy where prices have gone.
Yeah.
That's I guess that's just what happens when your team finally shows up after 50 years.
100%.
Jaguars. I had another question here. I was trying to find something, but I want to talk about the quarterback, Trevor Lawrence, for just a moment. I highlighted this morning. Now, the NFL has a very interesting way at evaluating quarterbacks, right? You've got high draft picks, especially those with those physical attributes. Like I said this morning, you got the Fabio hair, he's a good looking dude, high pedigree, and Trevor Lawrence, often they receive that generational talent label. You mentioned that, you are a supporter of Trevor Lawrence. If I were to put words in your mouth, you probably feel like his best years are still ahead of him.
Yes.
Both Jared Goff and Trevor Lawrence were number one picks, in their respective drafts. But their career trajectories and their recent contract extensions really started to spark some debate, especially when it happened. And then now that we've kind of seen where the season is played out, given Goff's resurgence and Lawrence's, I guess, lack of or inconsistencies, it's kind of worth examining whether the Jaguars made a mistake. And I'm curious to get your take on this. By extending Lawrence, and I already know that you're a supporter of Lawrence, but let's roll with this for a minute. Should they have stuck with Gardner Minshew based on these facts that I put together? And I apologize, this is kind of a long segment. Jared Goff, 4-year extension, $212 million, $170 million guaranteed. Trevor Lawrence, $275 million over 5 years, $200 million guaranteed. What did the extension really mean? Like where was Jared Goff, at this time of his career? Well, from 21 to 23. Now, keep in mind, I took the snapshot of the first 2 years of Trevor Lawrence as a Jag and the first 2 years of Jared Goff as a Lion. So, Jared Goff averaged 4,038 passing yards, 26 TDs, 9 interceptions per season, with a 66.52 completion rate and a 96.23 passer rating. Keep in mind that he came to the Lions with playoff experience. He came to the Lions with a Super Bowl appearance. So he's been there, done that. And then by year 3, he's doing it all over again. He's 2 home playoff wins and NFC championship appearance. Now the critics argue that Goff was just a product of, a Sean McVay system. He was a systems quarterback and needed all of these things. But he really has proven his ability in Detroit, at least I feel. And Jared Goff has a decent amount, like I said, a playoff experience, been to a Super Bowl with the Rams. And a summary of his playoff stats, to me, speaks volumes of the type of quarterback that the Lions ended up getting. 9 games, 9 playoff appearances, 5-4, 60% completion percent, passing yards, 2,137 in the playoffs, 8 touchdowns, 6 interceptions, 83 passer rating. Not crazy numbers, but good numbers. Conversely to Trevor Lawrence, Trevor's only played in two playoff games. He's 1-1, 61% completion rate, 505 passing yards over those 2 games, 5 TDs, which is really good over 2 games, but 5 interceptions and a 72% passer rating. My question is, was Lawrence's extension a mistake? Was he overpaid based on current performance? Is Lawrence's massive contract, does this make him that made him one of the highest paid quarterbacks in the league despite not really demonstrating elite play concern you at all?
No. So here's my take on it. We can't. Year 1 is very tough because you have an Urban Meyer offense and an Urban Meyer run organization. So that's a little tough.
I forgot all about the Urban Meyer.
Right. So that's tough. Like, I don't want to say like it's a throwaway, but like that was rough. Obviously, like, yeah, if you're paying somebody $275 million, you want him to be a top 5 quarterback at all times, right? Like, that is really what you were paying him for. So they for sure are paying him for what they expect him to be and what he was for those 16 games between year 2 and year 3 before injuries, right? So, but yeah, I guess you could make the argument that like, yeah, he's overpaid for like what he has done. I will also say he leads the league since being in the NFL in wide receiver drop passes at 123.
Wow.
100. The next closest I think it was like Patrick Mahomes at like 95 or something like that. It was something like that. But still, it's like another like 35 extra drop passes. So there's that, which obviously never helps. And I can't count how many interceptions he has that went off of wide receivers' hands. Like, not to mention the drops, but like the turnovers happen. What I like about Trevor is he clearly had a fumbling problem. I have been vocal about this fumbling problem. And this year he has 1 fumble lost, like just 1. And so I'm like, okay, he's improving in that area. I think schematic is a huge difference. I mean, like, if you look at Goff year 1 of his career with Jeff Fisher, like, he was really bad. I would be shocked if he didn't have a negative touchdown to interception ratio. I don't have the exact stats on hand, but my guess would be, if I remember correctly, I think Goff was something like 8 touchdowns, 9 interceptions, or somewhere in that area. And like, I think coaching and scheme is a huge thing, and Goff is, and I love it for him. Like, went from McVay and now he's at Ben Johnson, and he's like having this very like awesome offensive coordinator that has a vision of what he wants to be. I'm a firm believer in motion gets guys open, and the Jags are 30th or 31st in motion on plays, pre-snap motion, and I think that's just you're just setting your team up for failure with that.
Yeah, that's definitely a momentum killer if you're not pre-snapping any motion and you got to get the defense
moving, thinking, get out of position. A guy has to go over a linebacker or under a wide linebacker, right, and be able to move around. So, but to answer your question, like, I think it's very fair that like people can say that Trevor's overpaid for what he is. Do I think that his best years are ahead of him? Yes. Do I think that he has the talent? Yes. Do I think that like a lot of things have not gone his way in his career so far? Yes. Comparing him to Gardner Minshew, I think it's an argument that I just don't want to have with people for the most part, because like it was a totally different regime, totally different offense, totally different people. And like, we see what Gardner Minshew is now. Like, we see what he's been on other teams. And there's a reason why he goes from team to team, because nobody believes that he has the talent to be a starting quarterback for the long term.
Yeah. So, I don't think that Gardner Minshew was ever the answer. But the whole premise of this came up by Richard Sherman, and he had that little hot take the other day, and that's what kind of sent me down this roller coaster ride, if you will, because I was thinking about Jared Goff and how everybody was hating on Jared Goff and systems guy, and he's a bridge and he's garbage, and yeah, kind of the same thing you're saying about Trevor Lawrence, you could say a lot about Jared Goff. And so it's good to see from your perspective that you're not losing hope or focus in your quarterback. And the one thing that I think that some people may not understand with this is you paid him at the right time.
I agree.
Because you didn't get the $60 million Dak contract, and you're not going to get all the contracts that are going to happen this year, this next offseason, that's going to drive the price up even further. So they got him at the right time for the length of time to see another regime see it through, right? To build around them, to put the right pieces around them. And sometimes when you have just a few pieces that matter, like the Lions did in 21, they completely gutted 85% of their roster that year. The roster attrition and turnover was crazy. The Jags might have to do the same thing, and it might only take 2 or 3 seasons before you're right back in it with a quarterback in his prime and a receiver in his prime with Brian Thomas. I don't know how old Josh Hines is, but Walker will be in his prime if they retain him. So the whole point with Gardner Minshew is when you look at the stats of Trevor Lawrence from his first couple of seasons and what Gardner Minshew did at his first couple of seasons as a Jag, started 20 out of 23 games. Gardner Minshew had better stats. And so the whole argument I think Richard Sherman was trying to make here was, couldn't you have just kept Gardner Minshew to get the same output that you're getting from Trevor Lawrence and build your team out and then find a quarterback? I think is where he was going with that. Yeah. But I guess you really never know, right? Hindsight's always 20/20.
You never know. And we talked about this on the Talking Football podcast last night as well. It's like, it feels like everybody's also forgetting the run that the Jags had 2 years ago. Like, let's not like, if it was Justin Herbert coming back from down 31 points on the Jaguars, like, he would be getting praise still to this day for that. But because it's Trevor Lawrence, he's not getting that praise. Like it is a thing. Like, there is that. And like, it's also funny to me that like, everybody criticized Christian Kirk contract, saying, why on earth would you pay him that? He's not worth it. Evan Ingram, why are you bringing in him? All he does is drop passes, right? Like, all these guys. And now the narrative has changed from now all these media people being like, you have all these weapons. You have Christian Kirk. You have Evan Ingram. Where I'm like, these guys weren't anything special until Trevor Lawrence came around.
Right.
And then you see like what happened last week. The offense had 70 yards in the first half and like 85 in the first 3 quarters. Like that's what you get when you don't have somebody like Trevor Lawrence. I think Trevor Lawrence is very special in the sense of like what he can do with this, like what he's doing with this, what I personally think is a bad scheme. Again, if you look at the stats and stuff like that, like I can't say anything besides like, yeah, Gardner Minshew stats are very similar, and so are Daniel Jones, right? Like, but like I think if you just watch the games, you see the things that Trevor can do that the other guys can't. I guess.
And I think that's the big difference, right? If you're not watching Jaguars all day, every day, like I watch the Lions all day, every day, you're not going to see everything that you see on tape. And the eye test is so important. And I think that's what a lot of people were missing, you know, even talking about Jared Goff for all these years. And we still have Lions fans that thought that Hendon Hooker was the answer, you know, and then you watch him go in and you can tell he's not the answer. He's not ready. And you see what Jared Goff is doing. His team is 8-1, and you know they're a smoke show right now. When I look at Trevor Lawrence, though, you said something earlier about injuries. That does concern me about any quarterback that. I mean, he's got a dozen injuries listed on his report. It still says he's a durable quarterback, but in 2023 alone, the guy suffered 5 injuries. Between, you know, knee bruise to pedal ankles to concussions to AC joint sprain, and then the AC joint sprain again this year. So back-to-back seasons. He ended in December 24th with that AC joint sprain, and then again in November of this year with an AC joint sprain. And I do believe it's the same shoulder.
Opposite shoulders.
It is opposite shoulders?
Yeah.
Let me look at, yeah, this graph is wrong. This graph has it all on the right shoulder.
It's his left shoulder this time.
Okay, well that would make sense. He's a left-handed quarter. Is he a left-handed quarterback?
No, he's not, and that's what Doug Peterson is like. Another reason why I don't like Doug Peterson being like, I don't know why he's not playing. It's his left shoulder. It doesn't affect your throwing. Where I'm like, if you don't feel comfortable there, like why on earth would you go out there? Also,
shoulder injuries suck.
Shoulders injuries suck, and when you know you're gonna get like just drove into the ground as a quarterback, like it's a real concern. And especially when it's like, hey, if I sit out 2 weeks, we have a bye, like in 3 weeks I can come back healthy. And I'm not going to say Trevor's doing this because I don't believe he's that type of guy after watching him last year, especially only missing 1 game. Him and Doug clearly don't like each other. Is he trying to prove a point too? Like, is he just like, hey, like you believe in Mac Jones, like you want to do this, like we can play this game, and let's see what happens after the Detroit game on if you're still around or not.
You know, I wouldn't put it past them. You hate to think that these little games are being played. I mean, of course, NFL fans already think one thing. Well, they're just going to intentionally tank so they can get a better pick. Well, maybe Trevor Lawrence just wants a new coach. I mean, hey, they just paid him. It's not like they're going to say, well, we're going to ship you off and eat $150 million. You know, we're not going to pull a Deshaun Watson Browns deal here.
And Shad Khan is the biggest Trevor Lawrence guy there is, who is the owner and the guy that just paid him that $275 million, right? So he 100% is listening to him, and he's in his ear. So
yeah, I would believe in the fact that Trevor Lawrence has good opportunity in front of him. There's just a few things that have to get tidied up, right? I mean,
100%, 1000%.
Every team has some issues, and I can't stand on a soapbox because the Detroit Lions have been good for about 18 months, right? 24 months, whatever it's been. I can't stand up here and say that, we've got all the answers over here in Detroit, because we don't. We're just now learning what real football is and being able to enjoy it for the first time in a long time, at least since the Barry days, because win or lose, man, watching Barry was always a win. Watching Kelvin was always a win. Those were the fun days for the Detroit Lions. So anything, what else is on your mind tonight, man? Anything else you want to talk about?
I mean, I want to just talk about your guys' division. Your division is fascinating right now with the fact of, obviously, the Vikings are doing a lot better than everybody thought, but also Darnold's starting to slow down a little bit. People are starting to pick up on him a little bit, and he might be coming down to what we all thought Sam Darnold was. You obviously have the Packers, and they're getting healthy. You guys there, like, what do you think about this division, like, as like how it's going to end up, and like by you guys playing each other and almost beating you guys up a little bit, can multiple teams from this division make a run in the NFC playoffs?
So I will say this: the NFC North is turning out to be probably the toughest division in football right now. I don't know of another division that has legit 3 contenders for the number 1 spot. I mean, the Packers, look, they can be a really good team any given week. They can. I think it all relies on which Jordan Love shows up and, of course, who's healthy, right? Like any team. There was a lot of people that did not expect Sam Darnold to do what he's doing. I did. I warned everybody from day one that you put Sam Darnold behind this offensive line with the defense that they just put together and the weapons that he has on offense and the fact that he's got a rocket launcher for an arm, he's going to hurt you. But then there's the other side of Sam Darnold that somehow, some way always creeps up at some point. And I'm not going to blame it all on Sam Darnold. I don't watch enough of their tape, except when it's Lions week, to know really what mistakes are being made behind that offensive line, or if it's the offensive line, or what the miscues are. At least I know they're not the Bears. But I will say this, that team is in the fold. They are in the fold until they're not. I don't think that this is going to be a Kirk Cousins collapse in week 15 and it all goes to hell in a handbasket for them. I think the Vikings are going to be right there, largely in part because of their defense. And as long as that defense stays healthy and they're able to give the ball back to the offense to make some moves, just like with our situation here with Detroit, they're going to be in the fold. The Packers are going to be in the fold. They're a well-coached team. They've got weapons all over up and down the offense and defensive, sides of the ball. I really don't see another division that can hang with the NFC North right now today. And I do think that we will have at least 2 teams in the playoffs, if not 3. I mean, it just depends on what happens. Let me look at the rest of the NFC real quick before I do say that. But let's see. Right now, let me pull it up. NFC standings. I do believe this, though. I think that the Lions are probably going to have this wrapped up by week 15 or 16 at the latest. I did say in the beginning of the season that they could go all the way down to week 18, but that really depends on what the Lions do, over the next couple of weeks. I expected a couple of losses right around this time, and we have a 4 out of 5 game homestand.
That's awesome. That's good.
So I just don't expect us to lose any games, over the next several weeks. The fact that the Jaguars are kind of beat up right now helps, right? And the Bears are imploding. I didn't even talk about them. They're imploding right now. There's a lot going on there. There's even talk of locker room dysfunction with Caleb Williams, which I can't say I'm surprised. So,
as a Utah fan that has beat up on him at USC multiple times, I also agree with that statement. So
yeah, he's an odd duck, man.
He is. To me, so this is kind of how I see it. So reading off where we're at currently, right? You have the Lions at 1, Eagles at 2, Falcons 3, Cardinals 4, Vikings are 5, Commanders 6, Packers 7. That's the top 7. Then you have the Niners that are just outside of it. It very much feels like there's 2 spots for like 4 teams. Like you have like Cardinals, Niners, Vikings, and Commanders, really, or Rams. Like it very much feels like that. But I agree with you that I feel like Detroit's going to have this thing wrapped up by like the end of week 15 or 16.
Well, I'm hoping that they at least end up with the 1 seed. If the Lions get the 1 seed, I really believe we have a sure shot at a first round bye in 3 home games, and we're in it. I really believe that. But yeah, to take this a step further, I apologize. I didn't talk about the entire NFC North breakdown or the NFC breakdown. So you've got the Lions, the Eagles, the Falcons, the Cardinals, which the Cardinals are in resurgence mode right now. But then you've got.
I will say, shout out me. I had them making the playoffs this year in our preview show. So
That's crazy.
I
me
was
too.
a firm believer in the Cardinals. Did you? That's awesome. Like
yes,
it just felt like they were very close last year, and you could just see the momentum going. I loved it.
So
awesome.
I called the Cardinals to be the 2024 version of the 23 Texans.
Okay, cool. I like it.
That's what I said early off in the offseason, especially when they started making some moves for Harrison. Then you have a healthy, Murray back. So anyway, so Cardinals are number 4 seed right now. Vikings are 5. Commanders are 6. Commanders are the wild card team for me, and I don't mean that from a playoff perspective. I'm saying that like they are legit. I mean, they kind of are what I thought the Cardinals were going to be. The Commanders are more so of that. Jane Daniels, man, he was my number 1 quarterback overall in this draft. Love watching him play right now. He is the surprise team, or the Commanders are the surprise team. But when you look at this, you've got 3 NFC North teams in the top 7. If the playoffs ended today, that's craziness. And right behind them, you've got the 49ers. I can't imagine, but I did say this in the offseason. I said the 49ers weren't going to make the playoffs this year.
Interesting.
But I also said the Chiefs weren't going to make the playoffs, and they've really shut my mouth up.
They sure have.
The Bears, they're at 9. I expect them to fall all the way down. The Seahawks could go either way. I expect the Rams to make a run. I expect the Bucks to make a run. Nobody else do I see making a run. I think that the last couple of spots are going to be between the Bucks, the Rams, and the 49ers. Those are the 3 teams that are going to make a run at this. Forget about the Giants, the Panthers, the Saints, the Cowboys. The Seahawks, you just don't know. And the Bears are definitely going to tumble. So that's where I see it. I see the Bucks, the Rams, and the 49ers vying for those last couple of positions, to battle with the Packers, the Vikings, and the Commanders. But I do expect the Commanders to move up. I absolutely do.
That's fair. That's fair. You have more faith in the Bucks than I do. I think the injury is just too much to overcome for them. But I can see it. I mean, I love their scheme and I love them everything. But I think that Chris Godwin, obviously they're going to get Micah Evans back.
Oh yeah, I forgot about Godwin. You're right. No, I forgot about Godwin.
Yeah. So, but I tend to agree with everything else you just said, and it's gonna be fascinating to watch this all play out. So,
what do you think about the AFC?
The AFC. So, you said how you said the Chiefs weren't going to make playoffs as your prediction. Mine was the Ravens, and they've kind of shut me up as well. So, I will also say I had zero faith in the Bills this year, and man, have they shut me up. They look fantastic.
Yeah,
I really like what the Bills are doing. So right now, currently AFC is Kansas City, Buffalo, Pittsburgh, Houston, Baltimore, Chargers, and then Denver. That is the top 7. The crazy thing with the AFC is there's so many like 2 and 3 win teams that it's like hard to justify like seeing them move up. But I still think Miami makes a run. I think that they figure it out now that TUES is back healthy. I still think the Bengals have a chance. I think the top 6 stay kind of the way they are, like not maybe position wise, but the 6 make it. I think it's for that final spot. It is going to be Denver, Cincinnati, Miami, like those 3 for one spot. That's the way I kind of see it playing out.
Denver. I'm sorry, you said Denver and who?
Cincinnati and Miami.
So the Bengals, I wasn't really high on this season. The Colts, I had a little bit more faith in because I thought their defense was going to be somebody. But the Colts are a mess.
They're a mess.
And they're 4-6. I expect them to continue a downward trend. I know that Richardson's coming back, but he might tap out again in the first quarter. So who knows?
Yeah. Exactly.
The whole Tua thing, they're at 3-6. I don't trust Tua. And I don't mean any pun by this. I don't trust his head right now. I don't trust where medically he is. I wish him nothing but the best. But I mean, it just seems like he's a bad hit away from a dangerous situation. And I hate to see that for this guy, but I don't think that players are going to pull away. Does that make sense? I don't think they're going to pull away when they need to make a play.
They will not. I think we have plenty of track record of showing that no player will. So.
Yeah. The biggest concern for me would be, do the Jets even have a shot at all? And does Aaron Rodgers finally leave the NFL when this season tanks on him, if it tanks? Because right now you got the Bills representing the East, and the Jets would be the only other team outside of the Dolphins representing the East.
Correct.
So is it Dolphins over the Jets for you? You already said that. But do you think that they can catch fire at all in a bottle and make a run?
I don't, just because their defense is a total letdown. Like, I was a firm believer that I thought the Jets were going to have the number 1 defense in the NFL this year. And boy,
I think they started off that way.
Yeah, the first like 2 or 3 weeks they were pretty good, and then it's gone downhill. Like it Mosley being injured has hurt the Jets dramatically. Sauce Gardner, given like he's a cornerback, so it's like, do you expect him to tackle? But like he's missed a fair amount of tackles that have allowed big plays over the last couple of weeks. So like he's kind of been a letdown. So I kind of just don't really believe in that. Plus, I really just like the Dolphins' schedule, playing the Raiders, the Patriots twice, or sorry, the Jets twice, the Patriots once, the Browns. Like I feel like they have like a path to 5 pretty easy wins, and then they got to just sneak in 1 or 2 more, and they'll be at 9, 10 wins.
Yeah.
And that's kind of why I believe in them more than the Jets per se. So.
Well, I mean, I don't mean this in the most negative of fashions, but the Jaguars are at the bottom of the list. I think that they're probably going to stay there. The Raiders, the Titans, and the Browns, unfortunately, I think that they're all pretty much done. The Patriots, Patriots are in that same boat. So if they all lose this weekend, are they all mathematically out? I think they are. I think they are. I don't know how to, I'm not going to do the math right now, but I think they are.
No, I don't think so. Because if the Denver loses, they're still technically 3 games out, right? Like with 6 to go. So mathematically, no. But like, I'm a realistic person. Like Jags, Raiders, Titans, Browns, and New England, I would say they're all out already. Just like they're just not good enough to make a run.
I can't believe the Colts are probably going to push, but I agree with you. Dolphins, the Bengals have the best shot.
Yeah,
and the Broncos for that 7th spot. I'm a full believer that Harbaugh will have his team into this playoff. I expected it. I called it. The Chargers would make it. So hopefully I get that one right. In the North, man, the Steelers are my big surprise team here. I did not expect this whole experiment to work out.
Me either. I thought this was the year that Mike Tomlin did not go above 500. I thought for sure that was it, and that is why he gets paid the big bucks, and he is an all-time great NFL coach, and I'm sitting at home watching TV. So
yeah, it's fun, man. Dude, this has been it's been an enlightening show tonight. We've talked a little NFL news. We talked a lot of Lions and Jaguars and kind of what's going on. If you had to sum up this game this weekend in 90 seconds or less, what would be your takes? What are you looking for? What are you expecting? And then your honest opinions and predictions, maybe a game score if you've got one for this weekend.
Yeah, game score, I kind of already mentioned it. I spoiled it a little bit, but I'll go 31-10. I'll say that. I'll say that it's probably like, and that might be playing it a little safe, honestly, but I'll say like they're up 31-7. They bench the starters. Jags go down and get a field goal sometime in the middle of the 4th quarter, and that's about it. So I'll say that. I fully expect a big yardage game from all of the Lions. So for fantasy players, like I'd be starting all of them. Like anybody you got on that offense, like I would be starting them. It's just so hard with this Jags offense without Trevor Lawrence to know like what's going to happen. But I expect some stutters, and I expect not a lot. But like you mentioned, hey, like the Lions have given up a few big plays here and there. I expect maybe 1 or 2 big plays from the Jags offense that maybe gets them a drive or 2 that look decent. But other than that, I expect a lot of 3-and-outs. I think we had 7 or 8 3-and-outs last week. I kind of expect that to be kind of status quo here.
So before I give you my final take, give me your final take on your offensive line, or your offensive line. Where do you have them in the hierarchy right now of being able to protect Trevor Lawrence, who's out, whether it's Trevor or Mac Jones? Where's your weak links here along the offensive line?
If Ezra Cleveland does not play, left guard is a huge weakness. Brandon Sheriff has been, I mean, he's just getting older. He's not what he used to be. So I'd say both of our guards have that ability of giving up passes. I'm a huge Anton Harrison, our right tackle fan. I think he is fantastic. He had a great rookie year. He's very good against the run. This year, he actually has not been the best against the pass. So I would say if you had to, like, if you're going to expose it, I'd say left guard, assuming Ezra Cleveland does not play, and right tackle.
So let's assume Cleveland's in. Right tackle is a weakness for you potentially, and potentially right guard with Scherf. Is that what I'm hearing?
Yep.
Okay, so on the right side, you're probably gonna have Pascal. I would assume. I want to say that my numbers may be flip flopped. I want to say that Darius Smith lines up. Hold on here. Let me get my
To
stat.
line up with the Packers on the left, and Preston Smith was always on the right.
I know he can play everywhere, but I thought the stat that I just read the other day kind of painted him into a box, but I don't think the Lions are going to paint him into a box. They're just going to try to get plays out of him this weekend. They're not trying to overload him. Here we go. Smith has generated 26 pressures this season, the third most among Lions defenders after joining the team. McNeil has 28. The Lions definitely get a ton of interior pressure right now. 5 sacks for Lee McNeil. Matchup here has Smith aligned at the left side, left edge, on 66% of his defensive snaps this season. So that is going to put him over your left tackle on about half the play. So he's probably going to move around. You might see a mixed bag with Pascal and Smith kind of jumping both ways and seeing who can affect who better, and what matchup is working better for them in this game. So my final take is this on this game. I think that Darius Smith pops off for 2 sacks. He is so excited right now. I don't know if you've caught any of his media, but I would advise you to watch some of his media from this week and last week. His smile is from ear to ear. It's just fun to watch, when guys are so excited to play. You don't normally see that. Guys are traded, right? They kind of just fly under the radar. No. Darius Smith came bounding into this building just ready to go, ear to ear. He's like, give me a helmet. Let's do it. And I think that kind of energy is going to carry over into this weekend. Not only that, he was infectious on the sideline this last weekend. I think he was a big reason as to why this Detroit Lions defense was able to rumble back against the Texans. I think he's going to be he's going to answer a lot of questions for us. I think he's going to pop off with 2 sacks. I think that Mac Jones is going to be under a ton of pressure, but I also feel like this with Mac Jones. He's kind of burned us before, and he does have some skill. He does have an arm. The question is he going to be able to get to his number ones this weekend? More so than what you said, he did last weekend. I expect him to have a halfway decent game, but I expect the run to get bottled up. I do expect Smith and Pascal and the rest of the defensive line to have some fun. And like you, I see total domination, and this is going to be the first time I say this season, because versus the Texans, I kept hearing from everybody, Lions are going to run all over them. And I said, nope, it's not going to be like that. This is a tough team. Don't be counting your chickens. And sure as you know what, we were getting our butts throttled in the first half of the game. But this is going to be the first time I say the Lions are going to have a really good game. Even against the Titans, I thought it was going to be a close game, and it was in the beginning, and then we kind of took off with it. But I'm going to go Lions 35-13. So I'm real close to you. I think you guys might inch out a couple more field goals. It's indoors. It is Ford Field. It is a friendly place to kick. It is not a friendly place to play. It is the loudest stadium, or one of the loudest stadiums in the country right now. So, Treespan, it has been an absolute pleasure getting all of this knowledge and conversation from you about this upcoming matchup. Absolutely loved it. People in the chat, I'm sure, are just ecstatic of listening to something different for once. Now, we didn't have a ton of people in tonight. As this show, continues to go back to nights, from time to time, I'm sure we'll grow our audience. So make sure you tell your friends. If you haven't had a chance to subscribe, please do that. Please let them know where the Talking Football podcast can be found. Plug away.
Yeah, you can find it wherever you download your podcast, anywhere you want. It is talking football. You'll see our logo here. It is a football with some headphones over it. It's myself, Austin Cunningham, and Dan Kiefer, with our producer Riley O'Brien. So yeah, we'd love to have you guys on. We talk all things sport, all things football, NFL and college. We're very big into the fantasy and gambling space as well. So you kind of get the best of both worlds there, and then on X or Twitter, whatever you want to call it, you can find it at talking_football.
Oh, at talking_football. I'll make sure I think I'm already following that one. Well, cool, man. It's been a pleasure. I'll catch you offline here in just a second in the back room. So everybody tonight for the Rockdown Detroit Lions podcast off the cuff. Appreciate you guys joining us tonight. Thanks again for coming on the show, Treese. And I can't wait to see what the rest of the guys bring to the table, because from what I hear, you guys are the best at what you do. So it's going to be fun. We'll see you guys on the next one. Enjoy the rest of your night. And that's it for this episode. You guys take care. Bye-bye.
Every day, thousands of people are discovering Uper Lights, Michigan's newest, funnest rock to go find on the shores of the Great Lakes. Don't go out with just any light. Try the Convoy C8 from uperlights.com. It's guaranteed for life, and you'll find all the ones everyone else misses. Quality UV lights that are perfect for Uper Lights, with prices starting as low as $20. Please make sure to visit uperlights.com for all your UV flashlight needs, with the best guarantees on the market. Just what you wanted and not what you didn't. The best quality, the best guarantees, and the best UV flashlights from uperlights.com.